My name is James Vasquez, and this is a video post for the macroeconomics course I am taking. This video discusses the production possibilities frontier or PPF for two goods which I can produce. The PPF is a graph which shows the combination of two goods the economy can possibly produce given the available resources and the available technology. In this example, this is a personal PPF graph since it only addresses the goods I can make myself. We will be looking at two goods, cookies and round cakes. We will look at how many of each I can produce in 1 hour and an 8-hour period. The major resource we are using for this is my labor as measured in hours. The first production possibilities frontier graph we're going to draw is our 1 hour graph. So we're going to tick it off in 4 ticks here. So we are figuring how many cakes versus cookies I can make in 1 hour. Okay. And once I get this filled in, then we'll discuss what each number means in our graph. And of course this is not drawn to scale because I don't have a ruler with me. So this is our production possibilities frontier graph for how many cookies and round cakes I can make. When we look at this graph, we see that if I produce nothing but cookies, I can make up to 36 cookies in 1 hour. If I make nothing but round cakes, I can make 4 cakes in 1 hour. And this is using a standard oven with enough ingredients on hand. So these intercepts that are along the path are the points at where I decide how much of each type to make. If I decide to make 1 cake, then I can only make 27 cookies. On 3 cakes, I can make up to 9 cookies only. So this is illustrated in this chart that I'm drawing now. And this is production here for cookies and cakes. And we'll draw for A, B, C, D, and E. So at point A, we have 36 cookies versus 0 cakes. At point B, we have 27 cookies versus 1 cake. At point C, we have 18 cookies versus 2 cakes. And so on. 9 is going to be 3, 9 to 3 ratio, and then 0 and 4 cakes. So 4 cakes is the maximum that I can make in 1 hour. So there can be, on this graph, this is what's possible for me to make. This is based on the available resources that I have, which is my labor, and the ingredients I have, which is flour, sugar, oil, eggs, and in the case of cake, we also have frosting as a factor, which we'll discuss in a minute. As far as points above the PPF, these aren't possible because my labor and resources will not reach this level. Points inside the PPF graph line are possible but not efficient, because I'm able to make that level of output, but it's not efficient given the amount of time and effort I'm putting into it. So the next graph that we're going to draw is the PPF for an 8-hour. labor cycle. Okay, and we're going to do the same number of tick marks, but our numbers are going to be different here. And bear with me while I fill this in. So as you see, compared to the previous graph of 1 hour, this is now multiplied times 8 hours. So we have the same angle of graph and the same 5 points, A through E, but they're going to have different numeric values. So, and of course this is round cakes versus cookies. And so our production again, we'll go and write up our chart, and we'll do A, B, C, D, and E, and it's broken down again by cookies and cakes plural, and this time it's going to be 288 to 0 cakes, and you can pretty much go by the numbers what values I'm going to be putting in. At point B, sorry, I'll go and label these real quick. At point B, I can make 216 cookies to 8 cakes. At point C, I can make 144 cookies to 16 cakes. 72 cookies to 24 cakes at point D, and 0 cookies to 32 cakes at point E over here. So that's the possibilities that I can make based on the current number of resources available to me. So we're talking about cookies and round cakes, which are baked goods. Ingredients to make both goods are similar, so as we discussed, flour, sugar, oil, and eggs. Therefore, if you reduce the resources, the graph will shift downward, as you will have less material for both these to make both goods. So then you're approaching this earlier dot because you're able to make less due to the amount of materials that you have. If you reduce flour, it's going to affect both cookies and cakes, not equally, since you're having to divide up the resources. However, as we discussed, there's one thing that cakes have which cookies don't, which is frosting. You can still make the same number of cookies either way, but if you reduce the amount of frosting you have, the PPF graph changes somewhat like this, if we're saying we can reduce it less. So we can make the same number of cookies because cookies are not affected by frosting, but the number of cakes we have are, because we have less ability to make cakes. So the lesson here is make sure that you have enough frosting if your customers rather have cake for dessert. So next we will look at the effect technological improvement in production has on only one of my goods, that the effect it has on the production possibilities frontier graph. In this case, I went and bought a cookie convection oven, which is specifically designed for cookie making, as the shelves are too small for cake pans. This addition to my kitchen allows me to double my cookie production output. Instead of making 36 cookies an hour, I can now make 72 per hour. So this is demonstrated here in our first graph, which is PPF with the new addition of the cookie oven for 1 hour, and the values have doubled from the previous graph. So instead of making 36 cookies total, as I said, I can make 72. But the cakes have remained the same value. So there's going to be a difference in the angle. It's going to be more uh, sharply angled than it was before compared to the previous graph. Okay, so we're going to label again A, B, C. Looks like I made a mistake there. So that will happen. So we're A, B, C, D, E. And again, we're dealing with cookies and cakes. How much I can produce. So the values have changed. Now I can make 72 cookies to 0 cakes. I can make 54 cookies to 1 cake. 36 to 2. 18 to 3 cakes, and 0 cookies if I want to make 4 cakes. Now I'm going to draw the original graph to demonstrate the change. So this here is our first graph that we looked at previously, and this is the changed graph. So as you can see, the angle has increased as we're able to produce more cookies, but while we have the same number of cakes. If I had bought a different type of oven that was able to bake all goods, the angle would be more directly proportional to the original line. This factor is shown again in our 8-hour graph. And let's go ahead and number these. So as you can see, we're hitting some higher numbers and getting closer to mass production than an ordinary kitchen type of setup. So we are looking at this angle of graph, and we'll again do our numbers. A, B, C, D, and E. And number of cookies is 576 to 0. 432 cookies to 8. 288 to 16. 144 to 24. And 32 cakes if I don't want to make any cookies at all. So this demonstrates the difference in production with the new cookie oven at an 8-hour point. And once again, I'll draw the previous graph roughly, which shows the difference in angle from the previous graph to the updated graph. So you can see that it's gone, as we spoke of on the hour one, the same proportional difference. So this has been a demonstration of the production possibilities frontier graph as it relates to me on a personal scale. This has allowed me to illustrate the effects of change on the output of goods produced and provides insight into the best use of resources and labor in making those goods. It has been educational for me, and I hope it has been informative for you. Thanks for watching.